Welcome back, everyone. So we're officially halfway through the term. And because of that, it is midterm exam time. If you have not completed your midterm exam, just a reminder, you have until Tuesday midnight to complete it. So this midterm exam is 80 minutes in length and you only have one attempt, so make sure that you are ready to take the exam and all prepared to do so. And just like your quizzes, this is a closed resource exam. So the only resource you should be using will be your brain. And this is also excellent practice for you, just recalling information. It's just on units 1 through 5. And in your future health science career, you're going to be expected to recall critical information right there on the spot, possibly saving patients' lives. So, this is a time when you can, practice doing that. This is, you have an 80-minute exam where you're expected to recall information that you learned within the last 5 weeks. And so, let's see how well you can recall that. Make sure, you're well prepared, that you've been able to perhaps go through the study guides that were posted in Unit 5 and maybe, review those unit objectives that were available all through each of the units and see, how much you have been preparing and how much you can recall in this midterm exam. That's worth 50 points. Okay, so be sure to take that exam by Tuesday midnight. All right, so that's the first thing that we need to make sure that we do this week before we get into chapters or Unit 6. So Unit 6, we're getting into cell division. So in cell division, we're going to learn how cells reproduce themselves. In chapter 4, chapter 4? Was it chapter 4? No, chapter 3, I think we learned about cell theory. So cell theory being that the smallest unit of life is the cell, and that life begets life. So cells come from pre-existing cells. And so we're going to take that and learn about how cells divide. So through 2 processes known as mitosis and meiosis. So mitosis being how cells divide in a typical body cell, where we take one body cell and we make 2 daughter cells from it that are identical to the original parent cell. And then the other process known as meiosis, where we take a germ cell, that's a specialized cell located in the gonad or gamete producing organ of the body. So that would be ovaries or testes. And those germ cells undergo meiosis instead. And one germ cell will divide twice to produce 4 haploid gametes, or what we know as sperm or egg cells. Okay, so we'll learn about those processes this week. Okay, so as always, you'll want to take a look at chapter 6 in the OpenStax textbook, located under our link at the top. So make sure that you're reviewing the chapter. There's quite a few sections this week in chapter 6, but just realize that each section is a lot smaller. So I do have 7 videos, one for each of the sections this week to go over. So go ahead and download your Unit 6 objectives and then follow along, filling out the objectives using your textbook and the lecture videos that I provided. Okay, so once you have that completed, then you can go ahead and take a look at our review worksheet this week. I already downloaded it. So, oops, wrong one. Hang on. there it is. So this first exercise in Unit 6, we're going to look at the cell cycle. Okay, so with the cell cycle, we're just simply labeling each of the stages. So make sure that you label the corresponding number with the parts of the cell cycle. So since this is the cell cycle, just remember we have interphase is 90% of the time, and we've divided interphase into the 3 stages of interphase. So what's stage 1, what's stage 2, what's stage 3. And then we have the mitotic phase, so we're in mitosis. And notice with the mitotic phase, we only have 4 stages. Okay, so we're not talking about pro-metaphase. So leave out pro-metaphase and just go with the 4 main stages. So prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. And then the last, number 8, notice it says C phase. So what do you think C phase stands for right after that last stage of mitosis? All right. So you'll identify the different stages or phases, whatever you want to call them, and write them down there. Okay. And then in exercise 2, we're going to try to figure out what each of the figures over here, which stage those cells look like they are in. So it can either be a part of interphase or part of the, one of these phases. So, it can be, you could write interphase, or one of them could be cytokinesis, or one of them could be part of mitosis. So you could, anaphase, metaphase, whatever. Okay. Again, I would ignore pro-metaphase for this one. So just use prophase or just use metaphase. Don't use pro-metaphase for any of them. All right. But you can use interphase. All right. So interphase is possible. Cytokinesis is possible as well. All right. So that is exercise 2. Moving into exercise 3, we're comparing and contrasting mitosis and meiosis. So this is, fairly, self-explanatory. So for the first question, should just be a number. So how many daughter cells? For the second question, the location of the cells. So where are they located in the body? So think about, a typical, in mitosis, what type of cells undergo mitosis versus meiosis? The genetic composition of the daughter cells, are they identical to the parent, or are they genetically unique from the parent? And then does crossing over occur? Yes or no. Okay. And then finally we get to exercise 4. So exercise 4 is the stages of meiosis. And in the stages of meiosis, we do have interphase as a possibility, as well as cytokinesis. Okay, so those are possibilities here. So when you're looking at these different pieces here, or these different cells, one thing that's easy to look at is, deciding if it's between like prophase 1 or prophase 2 is just looking at how many cells are present. So if there's 2 cells present, that automatically says that it's prophase 2 and not prophase 1. Also, make sure you're paying attention to if you're looking at homologous chromosomes versus sister chromatids, okay, that kind of thing. So when you're writing down which stage it is in, make sure that when you're talking about the meiotic stage, if it's, for example, metaphase, you need to include metaphase, if it's metaphase 1 or metaphase 2. So you'll have to include which stage. Okay, so that is it for our worksheet here. So once you've completed the worksheet, you'll go ahead and submit it for points. Okay, and then even though it's not due this week, you might want to get started on the homeostasis worksheet. This is our final homeostasis worksheet on digestion. So I'll bring that up now. Digestion and enzymes. So for the first part, it's just simply labeling. And again, if you don't know the different parts of the digestive system, you can certainly go back into our OpenStax textbook. And we go back into the OpenStax textbook, down to chapter 12. And then you can look under the digestive system. Okay, so in that chapter, you can look up the digestive system. Okay, so that's an option for you if you're having trouble with any of the parts of the homeostasis homework. Okay, so this first part, you're basically just labeling the parts of the GI tract. Okay, so we have the list here. So the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the rectus, and the anus. And for some reason, some people leave out the pharynx. I don't know why. So make sure you include that. I just go through the list and label them. There should be a line for each. Oh, there isn't a line for the pharynx. That's why. So put that in there. And then a lot of students forget this part. They don't read this part. It says the digestive system also includes several accessory organs: the salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So add these accessory organs to the diagram and label them in the correct location. So you need to add these 4 accessory organs. So, I mean, you can just draw them in. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, like the gallbladder is kind of hidden within the liver and the pancreas kind of behind everything. So, you know, just draw them in as best as you can and then just label it, you know, draw a line and label it. So those need to be included. And I'd say probably at least a third of the class, the ones that don't watch the video typically, they forget to do that. Okay, so don't be one of them. Okay, you'll miss the 4 points there. Next, you're going to basically define the different stages of digestion and then, or different stage of food processing, I should say, and then where it occurs in the GI tract. And note that it can occur multiple locations. All right, so for example, you know, we have secretion going on in different parts of the digestive tract. It's not just, you know, in the salivary glands, you know, releasing saliva in the mouth. I mean, we also have in the stomach, we have, you know, gastric juices being secreted. We have in the small intestine, we have, you know, other parietal glands, things like that, that are secreting things. So, you know, there's secretions going on all over the place. So you'll have to specify the different locations within the digestive tract. And then here you're defining the terms. So what's the difference between peristalsis and segmentation in relation to motility in the digestive tract? And just be careful if you're using Google. Segmentation is going to give you a different definition if you just do that. So make sure it's related to the GI tract. And then where it's occurring in the digestive tract. Then you're going to draw it out. So draw an illustration demonstrating peristalsis versus segmentation. So there will be a drawing here. Then we have basically the utilizing the different enzymes. Okay, so we have enzymes throughout the digestive tract, and they're designed to break down different parts of our nutrients. Okay, so this kind of goes back to when we learned about the macromolecules. So remember, we have the carbohydrates, the complex carbs. So how do we break down complex carbs into the simple carbohydrates that can be absorbed into the cells? So we have, you know, specialized enzymes to that. How do we break down the proteins into amino acids? Okay, so we have specialized enzymes to do that. And they're being broken down at different parts of the GI tract. So you're going to read the information and you can look up information on how to answer those questions. Okay. Same thing, you're going to learn about, what bile salts do and things like that, and what their relationship to digestion of fats and stuff like that. Okay. Moving on to other enzymes, we have a table here that you're going to fill out. So with the table, we have a list of different enzymes. Bile is not an enzyme, but it's kind of related because it breaks down, emulsifies fats. So you're going to write down, what the enzyme does. What does it digest? Is it a carbohydrate? Is it a lipid? Is it a protein? Where is it produced in the body? Okay, so basically it's going to be some sort of gland usually, or what part of the body, what organ, and then where does it work? So for example, like the salivary amylase, it's produced in the salivary glands, but it doesn't work in the salivary glands, it works in your mouth. Okay, so it's secreted, in your saliva that's, working when you're chewing in your mouth. So the location where it works is different from where it's produced. Okay, then you're going to look up where its optimal environment is. So the temperature should be the same for all of them. So think about what's your body temperature, but the pH will vary. So make sure you're paying close attention to the pH. Because that will vary, and it's kind of interesting, because if you think about your stomach is highly acidic. So the enzymes in your stomach, they work, their optimal pH is very low compared to the enzymes in your upper digestive tract, like your mouth and esophagus, versus and your lower digestive tract, such as your small intestine and large intestine. Both of those environments are higher pH. Okay, so we have changes in pH taking place throughout the digestive tract, so you'll average them out and then answer the questions based on that information. Okay. So all of that, once you finish this, it's not due until not this Sunday, but next Sunday. But again, if you have time this week, you might want to get started on it early. All right. So going back to our week 6. So we have our lecture worksheet and the homeostasis project if you'd like to work on that this week, even though it's not due until the following week. And then we have our lab. So our lab video you can watch on mitosis and meiosis. So that walks you through how to complete the lab, including using the supplement, and then the lab manual pages that you're going to be submitting under the lab pages link. And we have our reviewing your knowledge that you'll complete after you've completed the lab, just like always. Okay. In addition to your normal lab this week, we do have our rough draft is due. Okay. So the rough draft of our lab report. So remember, last week you did the experiment for your scientific lab report, and collected the data, and hopefully you were able to write your method section at the very least, and you sketched out the general part with last week's lab pages. So this week you need to come together and write the rough draft, and so that is all covered under the laboratory resources section. Okay, so you might want to, watch the rest of the scientific report video. You can always download my PowerPoint slides to use those to help you. We have the lab report directions that will help you as well. And then in the lab report resources, I like this checklist. So this checklist is pretty useful. You can just, check off that you've included all of these within your paper, okay, your rough draft. Now remember, this is a rough draft, so if you, haven't completely polished it off, that's okay, okay? So it is just a rough draft. But the more complete your rough draft is, the better, the more feedback your fellow students can provide. So once you're ready to submit your rough draft, notice under Unit 6, there's no place to submit your rough draft, okay? So you're going to go ahead and go up to the laboratory resources, and you're going to click on this scientific report workshop. So this is where you're going to submit your rough draft. Okay. So basically here's the instructions for submitting, and then your submission will go there, and you just add your submission. Okay. So it'll go here when you're ready to submit. Okay. So once you've submitted it, basically, as long as you submit it before the deadline, you get the 5 points. Okay, so as long as it, has some sort of rough draft. I mean, if you just submit a blank page, obviously you're not going to get 5 points for that. But if you, have some attempt at a rough draft, then you'll get the 5 points for your rough draft. Okay, and then it's due by Sunday midnight. Okay, so Monday morning I will be assigning your peer reviews. Okay, so 3 students will be reviewing your paper, and you'll be reviewing 3 of your fellow peers' papers. Okay, so the more complete your rough draft is, the more they can give you feedback on it. And then, that way you can change whatever you need to change for your final draft. That's not due until, I think it's in week 9. Okay? So, again, it says here, no late rough drafts are due. I always get students asking, can I submit it Monday night? No, you can't, because I need to, open this up for other students to peer review, and I can't wait on yours, because what if somebody needs to, do their homework Monday night? I mean, I'm not gonna, everybody's schedule is different. Some students, they have a different schedule than you. They need to do their homework earlier in the week because they work the rest of the week, or, they have whatever going on. And so, we need to get everything, some students, they wait till the last minute, and that's fine. But if you're one of those students, don't expect late work to be accepted for this occasion. Okay, so no late rough drafts will be accepted, because we don't want your fellow peers to have to wait for you. Okay, you're not permitted to have to inconvenience them. You can inconvenience me and submit things that I need to grade, but don't inconvenience your fellow students. So that's not allowed. Okay, so that, just make sure you submit it by Sunday midnight, no later. So no chance to make up those points. Nobody's going to read your rough draft if you, it won't even let you submit it. Okay, so just be aware of that. And then you have your lecture lab quiz. That's due the following Monday. Okay. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to visit me during office hours or email me. Otherwise, good luck on your midterm if you haven't taken it yet.